What is up, everybody? Welcome to another Tuesday night. That means another edition of Drive for Show DFS for Dough here on RotoGrinders. As always, happy to be bringing you the latest golf talk as we make our way toward a busy spring season in March and April. We've got a few weeks with maybe some underwhelming tournaments here and there. Unfortunately, this week happens to be one of those, but we'll still break it down for you here. And sometimes a little change of pace, keeps us on our toes. So as usual, to break it down tonight, you've got myself, Justin Van Zuiden, and Mr. Notorious, Derek Farnsworth. Noto, what's up?
Yeah, what's up? How you doing? I always love Torrey Pines for every reason. It always treats me well. So coming off another good week. How about you? And I hear you're enjoying some nice weather over there.
Yeah, the high temperatures, if you added up the Monday through Thursday high temperatures in our area this week, the 4 days combined wouldn't get you above freezing. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. It's in the single digits. Feels like -20 or some ungodly number where it's just cold. You don't really want to go outside. My garage door opener didn't want to work after being in the car all day when I got home from work. So it's brutal. And I know it's like that in a lot of the northern part of the country. So just sit inside and, watch some TV. Unfortunately, this isn't the greatest, in general. Obviously, we still got golf, but hockey's, just been doing their all-star tournament, and NBA's been on an all-star break. So it's just kind of been a boring sports last 5 or 6 days, I guess. The NBA all-star game doesn't grab me, but so the golf was probably the most exciting part of last week. And I know you don't sweat all the contests, in real time, but I did see that you were in fifth in the big $20 on DraftKings heading into Sunday. I had a lineup that was in the mix there as well. Didn't get the run good to take it down, but did have a profitable week as well. So, yeah, it was a pretty good week. Just didn't have the right combination there on Sunday. Had a good bit of Patrick Rogers, and it would have looked a lot different if he would have ended up getting kind of the surprise win, but didn't happen. Had some Aubert, had, Scheffler, all those guys that were in the mix, but was a little underweight on Scotty. So I was kind of disappointed when he made that run on Sunday. I knew I'd get passed by a lot of guys.
Yeah, good to hear you had a profitable week. Sounds like Scott Peary in the chat had a nice little 8X. You always love those weeks too. So Torrey Pines, a lot of fun. I think that lineup that you're talking about of mine that was in fifth didn't have Matt McNeely, but my main lineup did have Matt McNeely, so it ended up being, kind of a wash there. It was kind of crazy. He was +5 on his back nine on Friday, looking like he was going to miss the cut, and then just goes nuts like his final 45 holes or whatever it was. Shoots 8 under on Sunday. That was a lot of fun to watch. I thought he kind of had it in the bag, and then Hoovdig kind of made that charge at the end. But a lot of fun. I love that these guys are tested, even with preferred lies in play. Still very tough test of golf. So love that event, and having the cut just made it so much better.
Yeah. So how many lineups did you do in the multi-entry stuff?
I think I had 69 in the $25.
And do you know how many players you used?
It was 39, I think.
Do you know how many missed the cut?
No, I don't.
Okay. So I had 39, and this is blasphemous. Obviously, we share different lineup building styles. So for me, I had 21, I believe, and I had 3 guys miss the cut out of that group. So my 6-6%, I think, was like 40, and the field was like 18 or 19, something like that. So that led to the pretty good week, especially since the scoring was a little bit better on the weekend. That tended to be where most of the fantasy points came from. But didn't have McNeely, didn't have Cantlay, was underweight Scheffler. Kind of needed that to Rogers to stick at the top there to maybe have a sniff at it. I think I was in 40th when the leaders headed to the back nine, but didn't make it. But still a pretty good week. So we'll hope to keep that momentum rolling. Like you, I tend to like Torrey Pines. I know it's, for those that like birdies and scoring chances, it's not quite as fun to sweat than seeing guys go minus 25 or minus 28. But even still, I mean, I was kind of surprised on the weekend that it played fairly easy. I think the average scoring average on the weekend was under par.
Yeah, it's probably just because it was wet. We saw it was cold, but we saw the rain soften up. I saw on Sunday they were hitting like 4-irons into that par 3 on the back 9, and I mean they were just stopping on a dime, no rollout whatsoever. So I think that definitely helped the scoring. But yeah, if you weren't hitting the ball well, that rough was pretty thick. I don't know if you saw Matt McNeely ended up hitting it like way right on one of the holes on the back 9. It was going to be so far right that it was going to be fine, but then it hit the foot of a fan, and just ended up like right on the lip of the bunker. He had to just like chop it out like 10 feet. Just kind of crazy the breaks you get in golf. I think he ended up making par still, but yeah, it's just funny how that works.
Yeah, one little bounce can make a big difference. So obviously talking a little bit more about last week, because this week's tournament is not going to have as much to talk about. We've had, a few events here over the last month where the big guns have played. Obviously, almost everybody teed it up that was able to last week. And I think when I looked yesterday, there's only, I believe, 9 golfers in the field this week that played last week, and most of them were in the 6Ks last week. So it's, you've got Rogers was basically min salary last week. Jaeger was in the 6Ks. Kevin Yu was like min salary, and they are some of the most expensive golfers in the field this week. So just a huge change with the Mexico Open. That's going to require a little bit of a reset in how we evaluate some of the players on the board here. But any other takeaways from last week for you?
I don't think so. Højgaard ended up being way more popular than I expected, and he really struggled. I think he was plus 15 after the first couple rounds. So shout out to him. And I mean, the 6-6 percentage was way lower than I was expecting it to be.
Yeah, it was. I think it was 18.
Yeah.
Which, when you consider that, I think there was only like 19 guys that got cut, something like that. Pretty remarkable that, you just have that low of a percentage. I'm trying to think who were some of the popular ones besides him that missed the cut. So I'm pulling that up here.
I mean, Cam Young, I don't know how popular, maybe McIntyre. Sungjae.
Well, would help if I can get the right tournament. So, all right, there we go.
I think Hovland's officially broken.
So Højgaard was plus 15. Straka was plus 10. Obviously, he had been on a tear. McIntyre, who you mentioned, Billy Horschel, Cam Young, Spieth was plus 6. Hovland, Sungjae plus 5. So there were some bigger names down there. Højgaard dead last by about 5 strokes, but the good driver narrative for Spieth. I suppose. I mean, it was like minus 4 strokes on approach. So
yeah, he gained.
Off the tee wasn't bad. All right, so he's still an elite driver.
You can't play him on those long courses.
Yeah, or anywhere really.
All
right, let's go ahead and turn the page and talk about the Mexico Open. Again, really weak field here. We won't bother with the snake draft tonight. We'll see if we can bring that back next week, but. It's probably not going to take us a whole lot of time to get through this. There's only 132 golfers compared to the usual full field, 156. And there's just a lot of nothing at the bottom of this field. So definitely a weak field event. Definitely the weakest one we've seen probably since the fall swing. We've got the 4th iteration of this tournament. It's been played at the same course. The Vidanta World Open at Vidanta Vallarta, or way too many V's to try to get the course name straight, but Mexico Open will suffice. What do we know about the course this week?
Yeah, so we have 3 years of data to work with. This will be the 4th time they played this course. Last 3 winners, Knapp at minus 19, Finau 24, Rahm at minus 17. So a lot of long hitters have won here in the first 3 years. It's a par 71, just over 7,400 yards. And it's definitely a bomber's paradise. So the fairway is really wide, 41 yards on average. And then the holes are pretty long, and there's just not a lot of penalty for missing the fairway if you do. So if you look at the Data Golf Course Fit tool, it has driving distance weighted way high. about as high as I've seen at any course on the PGA Tour. So I'll definitely be looking at the guys that can get it out there a bit. And if not, then you want guys that can be good with the long irons. 43% of approach shots were from at least 200 yards last year. So you're going to get a lot of long irons. And then really just about scoring. I was looking at the forecast. There's no wind in the forecast this week. I think the high was like 5 miles per hour. So I would think the winning score is going to be deep in the 20s, kind of like the year that Finau won at minus 24. I want to say it was pretty windy last year when Knapp won at minus 19, but not 100% sure on that. So yeah, I'm kind of looking at distance, long irons, and then when courses are really easy, putting tends to come into play because when everyone's hitting greens, it turns into a putting contest. So we'll be looking at that a little bit. And then just birdie makers, can't go wrong. And then when the winning score is going to be 25 under par.
Yeah, you mentioned those winning scores from the last 3 years, and with probably more wind in those editions than what we're going to have this time around, where you mentioned basically no wind scheduled, at least as of now, for the 4 days. So targeting the bombers and the scorers is my approach as well. Also worth noting that it's a par 71. That's not a traditional one. It has 5 par 3s and 4 par 5s, so only 9 par 4s here, if I did the math in my head correctly, which is a little bit different from what you'd see a normal par 71 would have. 11 par 4s, 4 par 3s, and 3 par 5s. So an extra par 3 here on this course, an extra par 5 as well, compared to your usual par 71. And with that, let's go ahead and start breaking down the field. So we have just 3 golfers above 10,000, and they are Akshay Bhatia at 10.7, Kurt Kitayama at 10.2, and Rasmus Højgaard at 10.1. Now, if you would have told me that Højgaard would be 10.1 and would be 21% projected ownership coming off a dead last by a mile performance last week, and that Akshay would be 36%, we'd look at you kind of funny, but it's everybody at the top is overpriced. Curious as to your take with something like this. I mean, to me, when I see those salaries, like those 3 guys, I don't feel like I have to have them. They're all 10K plus, and they're all super high owned. I think this is a completely wide open tournament. There really isn't a favorite. I see myself doing balanced builds. If you've got 3 golfers there combining for like 90% total ownership, it's not that I dislike them actively. It's just at that price and that ownership, I don't see them as any different than the guys in the 9Ks. I can play some Akshay, I can play some Kitayama, but I'd rather just go into the 9s and get somebody at half the ownership. So frankly, I might not have a whole lot of any of these 3 guys. Do you feel differently on that?
Yeah, that's basically exactly how I answered the question in the survey, which was how do you approach the weaker field this week? And I just made a video right before recording this and kind of said the same thing. Like, I have everyone from 9,100 to 10.7 with a rating between 71 and 79. So basically no difference. And then if you look at their outright odds, they're all between 14 and 28 or 14 and 33. So pretty much not a huge difference in the betting market either. And like you said, I mean, 36%, 26% for those guys that just don't project much better than the 9Ks. So I'm doing more balanced builds. I think you can get 3 guys in the 9Ks and feel pretty good about it. I will have some Akshay and Kitayama, but yeah, I'll probably just do 15 to 20%, and then that'll let me be overweight on all the guys that I like in the 9Ks.
Yeah, I'll definitely be underweight on all of them. If I had to pick a favorite, I suppose I'd take Kitayama with the ownership factored in. Right now, we've got him 10% less than Akshay. I mean, this could end up changing, right? Like, Rory ended up higher owned than Scheffler last week, which was a surprise. Now, salary had something to do with that, and maybe a little recency bias in there as well. But if so, maybe that ends up changing a little bit. But if Akshay's close to 40%, I just get me some of the 9K guys, and I agree with you. You can probably fit 3 of them in there. So you look at Stevens, has maybe fallen off a little bit lately, but had a great kind of early winter season. Jaeger, we've seen some ups and downs from him. Patrick Rogers has been really solid on these driver-heavy courses. We saw it last week. You got Aaron Rai, Harry Hall, who was my kind of go-to guy during the fall. Hostler, Michael Kim in the 9Ks. So you mentioned maybe taking 2 or 3 of these guys. how are you kind of ranking your favorite 2 or 3?
Yeah, so love Jaeger. You mentioned he's kind of been spotty, but he did gain 4.2 strokes tee to green last week. He's been one of the best guys on driver heavy courses, on very easy courses, and on pass palm courses. Doesn't get the nickname Jaeger Bombs by being short off the tee. And I mean, he's 3 for 3 here with all top 20 finishes. I like that. You mentioned Rogers, kind of the same thing. He's 3 for 3 here with all top 10 finishes. Also very good on pass palm courses, also very good on driver heavy courses. So those two probably my favorites, but at the bottom of the range, I really like Bo Hostler, one of the better short games on the PGA Tour, especially in this field, and he just loves easy courses. He was T10 here in his only appearance. He would, if he was like in better form, I think he would probably be, priced up there in the high 9s, low 10s. So I think those are my favorite 3, but I don't mind looking to Aaron Rai if he's going to get overlooked because of his lack of distance. He kind of makes up for it with that long iron play, like I talked about. But yeah, Harry Hall, your boy, has been good. No issue with him. Michael Kim's been great the last couple of weeks. He's picked up some speed off the tee. So I think, yeah, it's just great range, and I kind of want to be overweight on 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah, I don't have anyone that I really actively dislike. But if you look at, the model I went through today, just doing stuff on the Betsperts rabbit hole, has Hall and Hostler both inside the top 3. And Hall's numbers are a little bit weird. Like I like the Bombers this week too. Hall hasn't been as good off the tee, but second around the green and 4th in putting over the last 6 months. So a hot putter can do wonders for you here too. I mean, just with everybody getting birdie looks, he's 3rd in total strokes gained. So the tee to green game is fine. And he was basically just a made cut machine throughout the fall swing. If he would have played better in Phoenix a couple weeks ago, he'd be getting more attention than he is. So I like Hall in here. Rogers, for the reasons you mentioned, I mean, the types of courses he excels on, and you factor in that he has 3 straight top 10s at this event, he's probably my preferred starting point, him or Hall. But like using Jaeger or Hostler as well. Those are probably the 4 that I will mix in my player pool if I'm looking at those guys at the top. So anything else above 9K for you?
Do you think Sam Stevens is going to get overlooked? He's like the only guy in this range that doesn't have good course history, 0 for 1.
Yeah, I think so. It just seems like, at that salary, his form has dialed back just a little bit the last month or so compared to where he was at. So I do think that he will probably be a little bit less owned than some of those other guys.
Same. All right. Do you have a favorite fade in that range? I'll probably go with Taylor Moore just because I never play much of him.
Yeah, I mean, the more I look at the numbers, it was Michael Kim for me, but I'm second guessing that a little bit. So, no, I mean, I don't. I really like all of them. It's the 10K guys that I don't like. And then I probably won't have a lot of Griffin at 8,900 on a more driver heavy course. But the 9K is like, I can't actively hate on any of them just because he tends to be somewhat unpredictable. If the ownership steams up a little bit, I'll probably be underweight on Kim, but he leads this field in total strokes gained over the last 36 rounds. So it's not on current form. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's move into the 8K range. Where it does kind of dip off a little bit if you're just looking at stats, but Jake Knapp is the defending champ here. Justin Lower finished 3rd last year. Those guys are both in the 8K range. Kevin Yu had a pretty solid performance last week, back-to-back top 20s for him. Alex Smalley and CT Pan I've seen popping in some statistical stuff this week. So again, part of those balanced builds, still plenty of guys you can look to in the 8K range. It's just a little bit weird when you see, Kevin Yu last week was basically bare minimum salary, and now he's 8.8K. I do like him, though. He ended up being on my best roster last week and played pretty well, pretty consistently for those 4 rounds. So Kevin Yu starting the 8K range for me. Maybe some Justin Lower as well. Good short game. And his numbers lately just kind of justify use on this course. And again, he was 3rd here last year as well. So You and lower are probably my starting points in the 8s. What do you like in here?
Yeah, you kind of have to pick your poison with the stats in this range because you have 2 guys that don't drive the ball well in Griffin and Lower, and then you have 2 guys that can't putt in you and Smalley. Then you have Jake Knapp. I mean, Knapp's won here last year. I watched probably a 5-minute reel on his swing that popped up on Twitter today. Just what an awesome swing. It looks like he barely even tries. But I don't know. I don't want to play any of them. I use probably my favorite, but I don't feel great about it. I mean, I'd rather just get up to the guys in the 9s, I think.
Yeah, I will sprinkle in maybe a few more guys in this range. Not that I'm, overly excited about any one in particular, but you lower will definitely make my player pool. Maybe CT Pan as well. Probably out on Olesen, other Højgaard, Sig at the bottom part of the 8K range. Probably stick to the middle and upper part of the range. And then I don't mind going into the 7s a little bit. So the balance builds, I think, going with some combination of 9s and 7s will be a pretty popular approach. Skipping out on the 10s, skipping out on the 8s, where admittedly there is a lot of red if you're looking at statistical rankings there before it picks back up into the 7Ks. So it's interesting because we start to get into guys that maybe aren't in as consistent of form. I'll let you start this range out. What are you looking for in the upper part of the 7Ks?
Yeah, one guy I should have mentioned the 8s. I like Norgard and Mahler a little bit. He's 3rd on the DP World Tour in driving distance, averaging 329 off the tee. So he's a guy that I don't mind looking to. He hasn't played a ton of golf recently, but yeah. In the 7s, I do like the upper part. Patrick Fishburne just projects really well for me. The longer you zoom out, in terms of the timeline for your statistics, the better he looks. He hasn't been great recently, but he's a guy that's very long off the tee, makes a ton of birdies, doesn't make a lot of bogeys. So I like him at 7,800. Carson Young's probably my favorite play. I mentioned this anytime we have greens that are easy to hit. He's almost dead last in the field in strokes gained around the green, but he's a very good ball striker, and he makes a lot of birdies, and he's a top 20 putter in this field. He's played here twice, 8th and 15th. So I'll play a lot of Carson Young. 2 other bombers that you can look to, Thor Bjornsson and Jesper Svensson. I don't know a whole lot about Svensson, but right now he's top 10 in the field in driving distance and strokes gained off the tee. He's also top 7 in the field in birdie or better percentage. So he might be a guy you want to look to in tournaments. And then at 7,500, I do like Chan Kim as well. He was T8 here last year. Guy that I like to play in these birdie fests.
All right. Yeah. So if you're looking at Young, I think is a really good one. I mean, you mentioned on courses where he can make birdies and don't tap the chip and all that stuff. He tends to grade out pretty well, and the good course history here in his 2 previous trips. So I like Carson Young as well. Silverman, another guy with maybe not the best recent results with a lot of these guys, but you kind of got to pick your poison. As you mentioned, you're not getting in this field. You're not getting great stats and great form for 7,800. It's just not happening. That's why guys are priced into the 9s that are usually in the high 6s or low 7s. Meissner at 7,900. He missed the cut here last year, but I'll play some of him. If you just look at his overall approach stats, 50 rounds, 36 rounds, 24 rounds, numbers look pretty good compared to his peers. Fishburne is a guy that I don't mind playing either in that same range. So pretty much in agreement on most of those guys. I forgot at 8,000, at even 8,000, I'll always, on a bomber heavy course, I'll always sprinkle in a little Ryan Fox and GPP. So he's kind of another guy. So
what has he been doing lately?
Not much. I think he's only played in 1 PGA Tour event like the last 4 or 5 months.
And showing a 10th place finish 5 weeks ago. So I don't know what it was. Must have been DP World Tour.
I think so. I'm pulling up his. A lot of times the DraftKings player cards have them both listed, so we'll see. So 10th in Dubai. Yeah, that was a World Tour event. And then 27th in Saudi Arabia. And then he did make the cut in Phoenix, but finished 63rd. So still driver heavy course. Had to get the obligatory Ryan Fox reference in, and he hasn't missed a cut since last summer. So don't mind him at 8,000 as well. Tournament play for sure. Speaking of, I mentioned my boy Ryan Fox. How about your boy Kevin Roy, who was on your radar for like 3 weeks once, and so he became forever attached to you until we realized that he couldn't putt, but he can hit it a long way. So maybe Kevin Roy here.
Yeah, he was always like a good iron player. He was just kind of bad at everything else, but the fact that he's still getting starts on the PGA Tour is kind of impressive. T18 here in 2024. So, I mean, you can maybe look to him. Probably not my favorite guy. If he's going to be 9% owned, I don't know. I don't love
he's
that.
He's going to be 9% owned because Mayo tweeted out the other night that Roy opened with better odds than defending champ Jake Knapp. So I don't think that lasted very long, but Roy opened at like 50-1 and Knapp opened at like 55, which seems absurd to me, but in any case.
That's fine. I wonder if it was just one book or something.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I like Bridgman down here, 7,400. He's a guy that was a lot more expensive a couple months ago. He hasn't been missing cuts by much. He's missing by 1 stroke, 2 strokes, 2 strokes. So he's close. Maybe he can get it going this week. Pot Guider is Bomber. So if you want to look at that angle, I don't mind it. We don't have like a large sample size with his stats, but yeah, he's first in this field in driving distance in 2025 and over the last 18 months. Rico Hoey, are you going back to him? You've been playing him.
Well, I played him a lot during the fall, but he's been pretty brutal the last month or so. I don't think so.
We got a couple other bombers. My boy Toasty, Gotterup, Molinax, any of those.
Though Hoey tends to play, I mean, like these, types of courses, Paspalum courses, like Hoey is from the Philippines, and those guys tend to play these courses well too. So could probably end up talking myself into it if I need another guy in my player pool, but as of right now, I wasn't planning on it. It just gets really bad in a hurry this week.
Yeah, Norman's a guy that's pretty good in these driver-heavy courses. I mentioned Toasty, Gotterup, Molinax. I'll probably add a ball in my MME pool, but not in my main lineup.
Matt McCarty was a thing for a while, but so McCarty won. McCarty was like the next big thing. He won 3 times on the Korn Ferry Tour, came on the PGA Tour, won at the Black Desert Championship in October. And just for the fun nature of golf, McCarty won on the PGA Tour in October, and his results since then are 5 missed cuts, a 53rd and a 65th. So no top 50s in his last 7 starts since he won, which is it's crazy.
Weird. It's wild. But if he would have finished second that week, he probably would have been motivated. So
there you go. He got his 1 win, and he's just going to rest on his laurels for the rest of his career.
It lasts 6 months. I don't know. With that first-time tour winner thing.
Oh, that's the threshold?
I want to look into it more. Maybe I'll spend my next year's All-Star break doing that.
So, and by the way, Knapp is around 35-1 now, and Kevin Roy is at 80. So value on Kevin Roy right now. If you want to, if you didn't bet him at 55, you can get him at 80. Boy, this just gets the 6Ks is just brutal. I mean, all these guys, I start to look, his stats look okay. This guy's stats look all right. And the current form just makes you cringe on some of them, or vice versa. It gets really bad. The only one that I felt somewhat comfortable with under 7K is Hayden Springer at 6,800. He did have a 6th at the Farmers. You got a driver heavy course here. He made the cut here last year. Norlander was a guy I played a lot during the fall, but his form has dipped. Luke List, I mean, you can just never trust the putter. I suppose List and Springer under 7K are my first 2 choices, but it's kind of a wasteland this week. So anything you like under 7,000?
Yeah, you know me. I like to keep a pretty big player pool into my MME, but
you're going to play all of them.
Right now I have one 6K guy, and it's the same one as you, Hayden Springer. long off the tee, made the cut here last year. I played him at Torrey like a month ago, finished 6th. So some good vibes there. But, man, other than that, I don't really know. In terms of other guys that are top 15 in driving distance in this field, if you want to do the bomber angle, you have Isaiah Salinda, Paul Waring, Trevor Cohn, and that's it. I don't know. I don't feel great about the 6s.
Yeah, it's really ugly. So I would not plan to use a bunch of guys down there, and I would also maybe embrace the variance this week. It's a week where I will be certainly underweight on a lot of the very highest owned players. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, if Akshay wins, and probably not going to be a great week for me if all the chalk guys hit. But I don't know, it just feels like a week where when you look at the leaderboards from the past few years, you're going to get some no names and some surprises, and that tends to happen whenever you have a birdie fest anyways. So embrace a little bit of variance this week, and I think that's about it. I considered it a moral victory if we could talk for more than a half an hour on this field without doing a snake draft. We are at 31 minutes, so that's I'm considering that my win for the day. Anything else on this tournament that you want to throw out there for the good of the people?
What do we have coming up?
Next week is the Cognizant Classic in Palm Beach Gardens. That one feels like it's changed names a million times.
So it used to be the Honda, right?
Yes. So
which is a good event. I like that event.
Tends to be a tougher course. Eckroat won it last year at -17, so it played a little bit easier. But yeah, it's a PGA National next week. It probably won't be the strongest field, but it'll be better. It certainly will be better than what we have now. So Cognizant Classic as we start the Florida swing next week, and then the Arnold Palmer, which will be a big event the first full week of March.
And then players? What? In 3 weeks? Wow.
Yeah, 3 weeks. So
Tiger can play.
Crazy how fast time flies. Puerto Rico Open got shuttled on the calendar this year beside the Arnold Palmer, so it doesn't get its own week, which is fine. But so yeah, one more relatively weak field next week. Then we'll probably see a stronger field for the Arnold Palmer, and then we've got the Players. And then at that point, we're only a month away from the Masters. So we'll keep on coming. The weeks will get more exciting than what we have this week, but still pretty good prize money out there to be won. So, all right, with that, we will call it a show. A little bit shorter tonight. We'll let everybody have a little bit of time back. If they were planning on investing a little longer with us, you got 15 minutes or so back in your day. Producer Steve can end his day a little bit earlier, though with no other sports going on. It's probably been a pretty easy day for Steve as well. But that's all right. Easy days are nice every once in a while, because NBA will be back, I believe, tomorrow night with just one makeup game and back in full force on Thursday. So we'll be back to the normal sports rotation. Baseball will be here before we know it too. But for now, we're done for this week. Thanks to Noda for joining me. Thanks to Steve for producing as well. And I am Justin. Take care. Stay warm out there. And we'll see you next week, everybody.